But listen, dude, Biden has been in fucking politics for a century, okay? He has always had fucking moments like that, even when he was much younger and much more dynamic.
And integrity and living standards and the National Health Service, because if not, that reform surge, if that continues to grow, if the Conservative Party get their act together with reform, a hideous prospect, then Labour would be vulnerable. So there'll be Whitehead saying, you know, be careful, but overall the mood will be of massive.
Isn't this good overall? Like if the Dems win? No.
Successful winning Prime Minister Labour's ever had.
George, a huge result.
I'll say it like this. Joe Biden was openly more progressive than Keir Starmer. Adjusted to like American politics. And Joe Biden's 4 years were openly more progressive than like what Keir Starmer's next, like what his tenure is going to look like. Also, the fucking Nazis got 13. That is crazy.
Labour was at the last election their worst result since the Second World War. Now their best result possibly ever. And he and Rachel Reeves did a...
No, Labour is a leftist party. Historically, Labour, it's in its fucking name. Keir Starmer, on the other hand, is not. Keir Starmer is a center-right figure that successfully among other people, openly destroyed Jeremy Corbyn, specifically so that they could overtake Labour and turn it into a center-right neoliberal party. There are still socialists within the Labour ranks, but a lot of them got purged.
And it'd be a huge mistake to take a lot of comfort from this, but there were people thinking, and the polls were suggesting it could be an extinction night for the Tory party, an extinction level event, and the Tory party would never come back. I think there'll be a lot of Conservatives saying we can come back. And then the final point I make, and the second big story of the night, is reform. They've entered the palace of Westminster. And if this is right, there will be reform MPs, and there will be a huge conversation and argument inside the Conservative Party, which is if we can merge with reform, then we can come back at Labour. Labour didn't get such a high share.
Bro, reform is just straight Nazis, okay? Like, reform is basically EDL, led by Nigel Farage, among other prominent British racists. Nigel Farage basically ran a campaign of being like, we need to kill immigrants. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the fucking MPs literally said that. We should train the British youth on our shores and use the migrant boats that are coming into England as shooting practice. That is literally a verbatim quote. I'm not even fucking paraphrasing. Okay? It is basically UKIP. There was a dude door knocking, saying fucking slurs. They were using the P word, talking about Rishi Sunak. Channel 4 did an investigation that we watched. If you remember, this motherfucker was door dashing slurs. He would go up to everyone's doors and door knock and be like, what's your favorite slur? Mine is the P word.
UK political system may be reaping the whirlwind of appeasing Farage rather than taking Farage on the core arguments that he makes, particularly around immigration. But a seismic win for Labour, and it looks as if Labour has also won its first election in a long time in Scotland. Look, yes, there are clearly big issues in a result of this scale for the SNP.
So bad.
The SNP's been in government for 17 years. We're in government now at a time when austerity is really biting. The impact of Brexit is biting. Of course, there were always going to be real challenges in this election, but it's also about the context of the election. You know, this was a kick the Tories, get the Tories out, and that always happened to the SNP pre the independence referendum, and I think we're reverting to that tonight. But, you know, this is not a good night for the SNP on these numbers. And
yeah, I'm telling you right now, dude, as some of you chatters are also saying this, but I'm telling you currently, okay, watch this space. Keir Starmer does privatization, continues the austerity regime of the Tories, and then basically all the Labour strongholds go to reform. Reform comes in hot as a motherfucker, gets more legitimacy from the Tories. The Tories have no one else to rely on, so they try to bring the Reform Party on their side. set up a coalition, and then that only ends up legitimizing reform positions. Keir Starmer turns around and in a last-ditch effort, he already signaled towards this. He signaled towards this in the debates, and he has signaled towards this as a fucking centrist. What will end up happening is Keir Starmer will also capitulate to the right-wing framing on immigration, and he already has, just like Joe Biden did. Okay, that will only further solidify the reform position and only legitimize reform further. England, 1930s Germany style, England goes right-wing next time around.
Clocking up votes in places they could win. Reform didn't have long to prepare for this. We know that their vote is going to be very inefficiently spread, but their share of the overall vote may be pretty close to the Conservative Party's share of the vote. And that is also highly significant. And then the falling back. If it's right, we don't know because there are margins of error here, but if the SNP falls back to just 10 seats in Parliament, which implies that Labour is now once again the biggest party in Scotland by a margin, that will have profound implications for that debate over Scottish independence. So, as I say, for me, this is the most significant night in our political history since at least 1979.
Jane, I'm going to ask Colin to properly go through the exit poll, but can you just set the scene in terms of what you think has happened under the wire here?
So I think the reform here, for the reform share to be really quite significant, is high. And the potential also, not just in those seats, and this is a really extraordinary moment, it's a real breakthrough for reform, for Nigel Farage, but I imagine that the impact that reform is having right across the country in loads of seats where the Conservatives are being damaged is going to be really substantial. And then we've got the likelihood of a very strong tactical vote helping the Liberal Democrats. So on both sides of that kind of question, you've got voters really in this pincer movement trying to unseat the Conservatives in this election.
What's so bad with a central-left leader? I don't know. Look at the American Democratic Party. Look at the French elections that are currently taking place. Center-left parties always capitulate to the most reactionary attitudes. And the Labour's not supposed to be a center-left party. What the fuck are we talking about? It's got Labour in the name, dude. Labour. Do you know what that means? Like, it's very different than the Democratic Party. Okay? Labour.
Rid of the Conservatives. We found that in 1997 when there were only two choices. It was you either voted Labour or you voted Lib Dem, depending on where you were. This time, Reform has joined the party, and to a more limited extent, the Greens as well. So what we'll find as the results come in is we'll find the Conservative vote collapsing everywhere. In many places where Labour was the challenger, Labour will have had a big swing towards it and will have done enough to get over the line. In other places, Labour will have to share that drop from the Conservative vote with Reform. In most cases, Labour will be okay, but in some of the places which voted very heavily for Leave in 2016 at the referendum, and in some of the places that voted Conservative again in 2017 and 2019, and where they seem to have very big majorities at the moment, many people have decided that they can't go to Labour. They're not Labour kind of people. Lib Dems are perhaps not very strong there. They will have gone to Reform, and I think we'll see some of those areas where Reform will slip through the middle. Lib Dems done pretty well. They probably haven't got all that much more voting support than they got at the last general election. But we saw Ed Davey throughout the campaign with his very stunts.
Sure did.
Numbers are going to change a great deal in the course of the night, much more than
thought and expected.
Because there are so many freeway marginals. There's so many. We don't know what the independents are going to do to the Labour, the Labour-Tory balance. That Reform number, which you were highlighting, looks dead dodgy to me. If you ask me, it's likely to be less than 15. It might be 3 or 4, but as you say, you just can't really tell because there are no precedents there.
What is happening?
But that's my connection or Peter's connection.
Chatter, I love Navarra Media, but like you're cooked for fucking telling me to watch them instead, right as this is happening to them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a fan. I love those boys. I've been on Navarre Media. Like, I like them. Like, come on.
Or something internal to us in terms of the battle that's now presumably going to break out inside the Conservative Party. I mean, you were the former chief political correspondent for the Daily Telegraph. So this should be, I imagine, a sort of sphere of the world that you have a bit more understanding of than we do, especially in terms of connections. What do you see happening next?
Well, the two things you've got to look at tonight, and in that is not the Tory vote, but also the Reform vote, which seems to be higher than some people expected. And we are going to enter a period of convulsion in the Conservative Party, and I think this is the end of the Conservative Party as we knew it. There's no, as we've known it for 200 years, the biggest electoral machine in the Western world is going to turn into something else. It's going to, and I think that, and if you look at the numbers, Conservative plus Reform is going to be roughly the same as Labour. Keir Starmer has won this enormous majority, not because he's been particularly popular himself, but because the opposition vote has effectively split. And so you're going to have an enormously strong argument, utterly disastrous, I think, for the Conservatives, but there we are, that for the Conservative Party to reform, to become of government, it has
13 whole constituencies voted Reform. Dude, the door dashing of slurs was an effective strategy. Okay? Very effective.
The 13 seats that the exit poll predicts Reform will get. Can you imagine him joining the Conservative Party? Do you think he feels like he can increase his power a bit more by sort of staying in Reform and causing problems there? How do you see that playing out?
It is going to be a minor story to begin with, because, the big story from now is this astonishing Labour majority, the most powerful prime minister we'll have had since Blair at his peak before 2003, and how he's going to use that majority and how much the size of the majority is going to into the Labour left. I think all that is going to be a major story. But you are going to have an enormous debate on the right of British politics as to whether traditional conservatism is still worth bothering with, and whether actually you need this merger between the Reform and the traditional Conservative Party. And I tell you what we've learned in this election is some really things. About Reform. It's a racist party. It's seriously nasty. It's Islamophobic. Its members are very low grade. Mr. Farage's own connections were being highlighted on the front in The Guardian today, a piece I really recommend, a brilliant piece of analysis about one of his...
Aiden, you better vote. Aiden voted Reform, chat.
And so does the Tory party want to go there? And that's questions which will hang over British politics for a while. Not the leading question, because the big question is about this, what Labour... We now have a new government.
And very, very briefly, a question on Labour, because I know sort of in your recent writing, you've been a big critic of political lying.
He said, come on, England.
The 2019 election was a landslide for a politician who I think everyone, would admit had a sort of...
What's your favourite slur?
And critics of Keir Starmer might say the same about him. Is the message here that if you want to get elected I
voted
Britain,
Mogul Mail. I watched Mogul Mail, so I voted Conservative. Same shit.
I don't know that Mr. Starmer was perceived.
No, it's
to
not
be
Aiden from the yard.
And nor am I certain that Mr. Johnson's endemic, and Mr. Sunak, I'm afraid, his endemic lying was the main reason for the downfall. All I can assure you, I will be keeping my record, which is there's a website documenting these lies and falsehoods we're getting from our leading politicians, an epidemic of them. I'll be keeping it going. And it made Mr. Sunak, Mr. Starmer, Keir Starmer, I must get his name quite right. He made some remarks which we can test him with. He said he was going to clean up politics just in the week before the election. Well, having said that, he can be held to it, and I'm very glad he did. But in opposition, as has been documented,
And what do you think he should do first? Some people would say Keir Starmer's support is, but shallow. If you were sort of advising him, you say you've got this big majority, you need to use it to do something. What should he be prioritising doing first?
Well, he has a big majority. He's also got a lethal machine. He has got the most brutal political machine in modern era. And so he can do what he wants. He's incredibly powerful at the moment. Well, the first thing he will want to do is to agenda, because he's central to his proposals was that he's going to make the British economy grow again. But he has constrained himself. But the reason he's got this massive majority is because he's refused to take any risks. And I was amazed that he has basically ruled out in the week before the election any tighter links with Europe, in particularly to rejoining the single market. He didn't need to do that. He'd have still have won a very significant majority. But the moves which would actually fuel growth, he rather ruled out. And I think he's going to find that very difficult to do. I mean, what else will he do? But he will be able to talk in a more grown-up way about Europe than the Brexity Tories, which had got very embarrassing by the end. He will. Foreign policy, I don't see any change from the Tories. He didn't seem to, they're both on Ukraine or on. Did you see Starmer complaining when the Tories said they're going to try and block the International Criminal Court from proceeding with its plan to impose a warrant on Mr. Netanyahu? No, he didn't. So he's been so cautious that one almost wonders what he can do.
Peter Obon, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to speak to you. I think we can now to Aaron Bastani, who's with the Deputy Leader of the Green Party.
I am so happy to be joined by you today, Zach.
I'm very happy to be here, Aaron.
You are you're the Greens' biggest person who isn't selection. So you've been their sort of de facto spokesperson, haven't you, over the last, 5-6 weeks?
It's been a busy time, yeah.
It's been a busy time. The best sort of turnout you've ever had as a party, the most votes you've amassed, was 1.1 million in 2015.
Yeah.
How do you think you did? Forget seats for one moment. How do you think you did in terms of votes this year?
This is a risky thing to say when we've not got results in yet, but I'm going to say it. I think we'll have smashed that 1 million votes. Where we'll be is a whole thing I can't predict, but I'm pretty confident that both online and on the doorsteps and just a general feeling in the country that people who wanted to vote Green in the past but have gone, I've got to vote Labour to keep the Tories out, finally got the message mostly that the Tories are toast. There is definitely still, I think our vote will still have been suppressed by the first past the post system, but I think more people than ever before, in my experience, just on doorsteps, and obviously that's only a relatively small experience, but we're saying I'm voting Green for the first time. Labour have crossed a line where I'm not willing to vote for them anymore. It's really clear they're going to be in government, and actually the Green Party have been needed more than ever before.
Are you disappointed with potentially, and I know that it's just an exit poll, and actually with the smaller sort of number of seats, there could be a big margin of error. You could have 4 seats. You could have 1 seat. But would you be disappointed with 2 seats?
It's a complicated question, but the truth is, yes, I would be disappointed. I want those 4 seats, but I think it also needs to be in context. We've had 14 years of 1 MP, and to go to 2 MPs is a huge difference. But I think even bigger than that, actually, is the campaign starts right now, pretty much in this conversation. We're about to have this Labour government, a Labour government that are capping child benefit, that won't cap bonuses, that have been complicit with war crimes in Gaza. And so the Green Party are needed more than ever before. And whilst I say support independent media, I'd also say support parties that are looking to challenge this Labour government and actually going to join.greenparty.org.uk and joining the Green Party. There's never been a moment where we've needed it.
Imagine being Turkish, trying to take the piss out of us, lol. At least we got a democracy. Bro, you think I'm like a defender of the Turkish electoral process? Like, what are you? That's so funny. That is actually an insane thing to get mad about. Gammon spotted. I don't even think he's a fucking gammon. I think he's just like weirdly upset for like my anger and resentment towards the Labour Party. My anger and resentment towards the Labour Party specifically is directed to Keir Starmer and the revitalization of the Tony Blair Labour, right-wing Labour. They're Norwegian. He's right. I am an Ameribu. I just think it's weird that he's like, at least we have a democracy, bro. It's like, okay, yeah, America does too, a theoretical one, and it sucks, Like, you should be angry right next to me. My anger and resentment stems from, a common perspective that I suspect many British people here also have. Yeah, sure, I make like the UK and Oibrovs in general, but like ultimately my frustrations stem from the fact that Keir Starmer is going to take this and is going to take this new Labour, this new Labour that's similar to Tony Blair Labour. There's a broad mandate for centrism. Do you understand? He's not going to do the good things that any other competent Labour leader who's like ideologically committed to like some kind of genuine reform, genuine progressive cause, like actually bringing about equity, would be able to do.
What did you feel when you walked in through the door for the first time?
I suspect he's actually feeling a lot of relief. I mean, I certainly felt, I know David Cameron felt in 2010, that we had delivered for all of our supporters. There's an enormous sense of, thank God we did it. And even though he's been told for weeks he's going to win, I think there's something special about seeing the exit poll and kind of knowing it's happening. And I think also, I think for Labour, but I won't, Ed will speak to this as well, from the depths of 5 years ago and Jeremy Corbyn, when people were saying there'd never be another Labour government, for the moderates in the Labour Party to have carried the torch to this point, is, I think, a lesson for the Conservatives, because I think fundamentally Sunak did not, unlike Keir.
My internet is so bad, dude.
Waiting in the wings, and not Nigel Farage's solutions, which is to scapegoat migrants, trans people, disabled people, whoever can get his hands on. The Green Party are there to say ultimately solidarity is important and we need to challenge this inequality. And I think that's a really important and powerful campaign message that, again, we're not in a campaign now, but we're always in a campaign. And ultimately, that's where the Green Party now needs to continue to build, is to tackle inequality. And I think things like our wealth tax have put that into the national conversation in a way that it just wasn't before.
So two quick questions, really. Firstly, would you campaign alongside reform proportional representation?
Pre-watch Piker, you already called it. They're already doing it. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. You'll see. Watch this space. In the upcoming days, everyone is going to talk about how much better Keir Starmer is than Jeremy Corbyn, and that centrism won in the UK. And it's the solution. It's the antidote to far-right politics, okay?
What's happened? I think actually within the manifesto, you look at the promise on growth, they're going to have to deliver on those. You look at the promise on the environment, they're going to have to deliver on those. I think that there's something I think about the Lords, and look, the Lords isn't, as far as I'm concerned. I really would love to have a complete reform of the place with something to replace it. But to get anything done, not least because of the obscene packing of it in recent years, the ludicrous situation of Truss putting in about for every day she served, she gets a resignation.
That's not true.
Honour.
She had about 5. That's not true.
She had
less than a handful.
Fewer. She may have had.
No, was it 4?
Okay.
Tell the truth, Alistair.
She packed she had a resignation honours list. One. Boris Johnson had one. And they've
and
packed
Tony
it.
Blair
They've
had a
packed
massive one.
Tony Blair did not.
You went on
do
it, but he had a massive one.
Tony Blair didn't do a resignation honours list. So don't talk about facts, Nadine.
The
thing, if you want to sit there all night and talk rubbish and parrot away, it's probably your last show on television.
I'll hold my hands
Can
up
I
that,
finish
but
the
he
point about the Lords? So Labour, to get anything done, are going to have to get stuff through the Lords. That's our system. What I hope is that people do as Harriet says she's going to do, to get in there, and Lords reform is part of what a Labour government does.
Rory. Can I just come back? I think Christians just takes off this argument. And incidentally, many congratulations, Harriet. I think it's a really great appointment.
Congratulations.
It's amazing. And actually, I think it's a very, very good honours list if you look at it. They're very Conservatives, good Labour appointments. You should be very proud. I don't think it's about packing the House of Lords. I think you deserve it completely, and I'm very proud of that. But the big point is this. This is a staggering majority if this happens. I mean, people just put it in context, far bigger than anything that Boris Johnson had, or Theresa May had, or David Cameron had. It's basically, we haven't seen anything like this since 1997. It means that Keir Starmer kind of has immense power. This is like an elected dictatorship. And the question is, what's he going to do with it? Because when the Liberals took a landslide like this in 1906, they changed the whole of Britain. They invented basically the welfare
45.
state.
I mean, Labour, to be fair, I mean, I don't agree with everything they did, but in 45, they transformed Britain.
So this is the question. If you're given that amount of power, what are you going to do with it? And that's where I think Christian's right, because we don't really know.
Is it a Labour thing that they don't win, they don't win, they don't win, and then when they do, these...
Yeah, Labour's gonna, dude, yeah. Keir Starmer, Keir Stalin.
There is and you actually see it across the world a bit, tidal waves against incumbency. And Labour are the incumbents next, so wait for your tidal wave.
That's why I don't think it'll be as...
And it does feel a bit like that voters are like sort of freight that isn't tethered on the top of a ship, and they sort of move from one end to the other a bit quicker. By the way, we're trying to sort of look through the... Quasi irritated that we were looking at the polls all the time in the last election. We'll take the point, but just looking at the next election, it's very interesting. If you look at what the exit poll is saying, if you drill down into it and look at what they're saying in London, for instance, Labour's down a bit. Down. Those numbers, but down. And that suggests that people are looking elsewhere. We presume people on the left, it could be Muslim voters who are unhappy with Labour, but actually down. Not much, but down. And that's
I think there's something to be said about Labour's campaign. They have been incredibly efficient in where they have gone, where they put resources in the campaign. They've won where they need to win to get that size of majority.
But they've gone up everywhere. I mean,
Should we just bring you briefly what we have Keir Starmer in the last few moments? He's just been on X Twitter, you know what it is. He says, to everyone who has campaigned for Labour in this election, to everyone who voted for us and put their trust in our changed Labour Party, thank you. So no comment about the exit poll per se, but a moment of recognition that whatever they were doing has worked.
He'll talk about the country next. He's just thanking everybody because, as Alistair said...
No, what he's doing has demonstrably not worked. Like, no, it's just what the Tories have done that has worked in his favor. I hate this. Keir Starmer literally did not win this race at all. Keir Starmer had nothing to do with this. If anything, Labour won in spite of Keir Starmer. He did everything in his power to literally, ruin the gap that they already had. He played it safe, gave him no openings. Are you kidding me? Dude, when the railroad strikes were happening, he told his fucking MPs no. He like, it's insane. They're calling it a Mickey Mouse ring. No, this is bubble ring, Mickey Mouse ring, 100%. 100%.
Kwasi and I were talking earlier, it's possible that Aldershot will be lost by the Tories for the first time ever. There's going to be some big changes coming.
He wanted any opportunity to avoid any opportunity for the Tories to smear him. Smear what? Being pro-Labor? What the fuck do you mean? It's in the name of the party, chatter. What are you talking about? Yeah, you're right. Tories didn't fucking smear him. The only reason why I didn't smear him is not because of his, political prowess and playing it safe. Is because they were too fucking busy. They were too busy fucking up the country. The overwhelming, unimaginable amount. There you go. Thank you, chatter. Here is proof in the fucking pudding. We asked Labour voters to tell us in their own words the main reason why they're back in the party. For the largest number by far, the key motivation is ousting the Conservatives. 48%. 48 fucking percent of Labour voters said they're voting to get the Tories out. 13% said it with a different, by the way, no, hold on. 13% said it the same thing, but in a different way, which is the country needs a change. 14 years of Tory austerity. Okay. I agree with their policies, got 5%. 4% said to support the NHS and reduce waiting times. They are the best alternative with a chance of winning, 4%. I like my local MP, 2%. For a fairer society, 2%. I've always voted Labour, 2%. He started campaigning on May 28th. That's when people started seeing him on TV. Look at Labour popularity. The classic Joe Brandon move. Look, all of this is directly a consequence of the fucking Conservatives absolutely dropping the ball. Meanwhile, you look at the lack of popularity for the Conservatives, and what is he doing? Adopting the Conservative policies. Everyone knew Labour was going to get a huge landslide, but no, Starmer still has to moderate instead of moving further left with near zero electoral risk. You go, polls prove this. There's no excitement for the charisma black hole that is Starmer. It's just about getting Rishi out. Yes. 1% said Keir Starmer's leadership. Labor voting intention now lower than in 2017.
Except I earn a lot of money in the job I am now in. But when I grew up, my dad was a tool maker. He worked in a factory. It's true. My mum was a nurse, and actually we couldn't make ends meet, which actually isn't a laughing matter. We couldn't make ends meet. We couldn't pay our bills. I know what it feels like to feel anxious about the next bill, which you can't pay. And a lot of what I have recognised is a lot of people today are in precisely the same position. Except I earn a lot of money in the job I am now in. But when I grew up,
What did reform do back in 19? It didn't exist. Also, yeah, Corbyn might lose his seat, is what I'm hearing from the chat. So they're folding the conservative policies when there's zero pressure there, the same way Dems folded with environmental, women's rights, etc. policy despite having unprecedented power, aka they're destroying the illusion of two-party democracy themselves. Yes.
Brexit Party didn't stand last time. So, of course, one of the reasons that Reform UK can make such advances in this election is because they're now standing everywhere, whereas the predecessor party, the Brexit Party,
Tories are the conservatives, the conservative party.
In 2019. So that seems to be one of the most significant things. I think it's also significant that if you looked at the polls in the last week, we did actually see a drop in Labour's potential vote intention of around 5 points. And so it could be that just in this last week, that tactical vote decision has also been solidifying, becoming more concrete for people in areas of the country that looks like it's going to benefit the Lib Dems.
I've got to say,
again, we'll be looking at Remain areas.
On that point, Tom, the chat in Labour circles in the last 4, 5, 6 days was reform surge. Lots of people saying there's a lot more reform on the doorstep. That was definitely happening since the weekend.
And yet I still expect that reform would be taking votes away from the Conservatives.
Oh, Biden had a call with Netanyahu. I guess that's over now. President Biden told Prime Minister Netanyahu in their call that it's time to close the deal to release the hostage and reach the ceasefire in Gaza, a White House official said. Senior White House official, the president was encouraged by his conversation with Netanyahu and by the fact that the Prime Minister authorized his team to go to talks in Doha. Senior White House official, we will do everything to conclude an agreement because the lives of the hostages are on the line and the agreement will bring relief to the people of Gaza. We believe there's an opportunity now. It's not only in the hands of the Israelis, but also in the hands of the mediators and in the hands of Hamas. The White House official said Biden's call with Netanyahu lasted 30 minutes and went over the different parts of the agreement. The official said that in the last day, Biden and his team studied Hamas's response and made a determination that it moves the process forward and provides a basis for reaching a deal. The senior White House official said that the Israeli delegation will arrive in Doha tomorrow to begin detailed negotiations. A U.S. team will also be on the ground to assist in the talks. The official described Hamas's response as a breakthrough and said the group agreed for the first time with the framework President Biden laid out in his speech, especially when it comes to the transition between the first stage of the deal and the second stage of the deal. They already were in agreement with that. They wanted assurances and a timeline. Okay? The official described Hamas' response as a breakthrough and said the group agreed for the first time to the framework President Biden laid out in his speech, especially when it comes to the transition between the first stage of the deal and the second stage of the deal. The White House official said Hamas' response was encouraging because it included adjustments in their positions. There was a breakthrough on a key point of contention in the negotiations, and now both sides agree to the framework presented in the president. The White House official added, there is more work to be done regarding the details of the implementation of the agreement. We agreed on the framework, and now we need to agree on the implementation. During the call, Biden and Netanyahu discussed the efforts to de-escalate the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Netanyahu told Biden that Israel wants to find a diplomatic solution that will allow Israeli citizens to return to their homes in the north, the White House official said. Meanwhile, Netanyahu today literally said he wouldn't end the war until all of Israel's goals are achieved, which includes the total destruction, both politically and militarily, of Hamas. 2 points Hamas agreed to a shitty deal doesn't even include the idea of withdrawing from Gaza. Fuck Biden and fuck the U.S. for forcing them to do that. Second point, fuck the Biden admin for framing it as giving more weight to saving hostages every single time when 50,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I mean, yeah, of course. Israeli citizens return to their home in the north? Yes. I think around 60,000. Dude, that chatter that you guys banned that said Hasan is the biggest fucking hypocrite, his daddy financed his entire life, is so funny. Dude, I helped my parents out. That's such a funny fucking take. Yeah, dude, you're right. The fuck? And I'm very honored and proud to be able to do so. I'm very privileged. But it is pretty funny that you're saying that. That's incorrect. What about when you were 7? Fair. Owned. Anyway, Biden said this about Netanyahu earlier today. This is what Netanyahu said. Prime Minister Netanyahu updated President Biden on his decision to send a delegation to continue the hostage negotiations and reiterated the principles that Israel is committed to, especially its commitment to end the war only after all of its goals have been achieved. So what does this mean? Does this mean that Biden is once again lying on behalf of Israel? Does this mean that Biden put adequate pressure on Hamas to... What is this? Did you see this? I gotta fix this. You guys are so dumb. That's so funny. What is this? This seems bad. Biden needs a W real bad. Longtime friends of Biden family who spoke to me on condition of anonymity were shocked to find that the president did not remember their names. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's demented. We know. More Biden news. Biden tells a Philadelphia radio station that he's proud to be the first black woman to serve with a black president. What? He says he's proud to have been the first vice president of a black president, and he's proud to be the first president with a black female vice president. Yeah, I mean, he flubbed it because he always does. That's a real tongue twister. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's obvious what he's trying to say. Okay, listen, this is not, listen. I'm all in on the Biden senile shit. This is like, is a tongue twister. I don't think in his brain he thinks he's a black man. This is just a regular flub. Biden had many gaffes. This is one of them. This is like nowhere near, in my opinion, obviously people will pay more attention to this stuff, so they'll like elevate the importance of something like this. But like overall, this is like low on the priority for me as far as like Biden's dementia. It's not a flub. He's not capable of putting thoughts into words. Yeah, I mean, but listen, dude, Biden has been in fucking politics for a century. Okay. He has always had fucking moments like that, even when he was much younger and much more dynamic. That's a classic. He fucked up. It's a little different than like trying to fucking talk about immigrant rape when the question is abortion. You know what I mean? For me, when I see that, that is forgivable. And a much younger candidate, you would absolutely forgive, right? If that was like a one-off, you would forgive. Or if that was like a 2-off, 3-off, whatever. If that happened like every now and then, you'd be like, oh yeah, he misspoke. Who gives a shit, right? Trump does that too. Trump does that too all the time. The reason why we forgive Trump for stuff like that and don't immediately think he's fucking demented in the same way that Biden is because there are so many other moments where he's just like coherent, even if he is insane. Like he's cognizant of his surroundings, right? Biden, on the other hand, is not. So that in and of itself, I know a lot of people will like meme on. That's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. What is this? Kaya is an ancient creature of the crucible. Every time I encounter her, she imparts divine wisdom by slamming her 300-pound skull into my leg. And you feel blessed with each impact. I do. She's a perfect dog. It's true. Obviously, Biden isn't saying this, but the way he halts through his sentence and says multiple things about Kamala, Barack, KBG, makes it sound like he does. Welcome to the next 4 months of clips and everything being seen through this prism. Unless for his own sake, he steps aside. That is the best take. Mehdi Hasan has the absolute best take on the matter, and I 100% agree with him. This is the same exact take that I have been trying to communicate, but obviously it's, you know, much better put by Mehdi Hasan. But yeah, the narrative is Biden is senile. The reality is Biden is senile. Here's the thing. The reality is Biden is senile. Now, all of those moments that you would normally say, whatever, he misspoke, chill out, will now become a much more significant political problem because it goes along with the narrative that Biden is fucking senile. Please don't ban me, but Kaya seems like Kaya has way more fun with her aunts and uncles than she does with her dad. Yeah, okay. You know what? That's a week off for you, Emily, for that insane take. Don't fucking say yep to that dumb shit. Get the fuck out of here. You guys are insane. I take her to the fucking park every day. I spend every moment with her. What the fuck are you guys talking about? She should actually be happy that I didn't fucking permanently ban her. What a fucking insane thing to say, dude. Anyway, don't take this the wrong way, but you're a bad father. I know. It's a crazy thing to say. Anyway, let's see what Channel 4 is saying now.
In terms of household finances, but she also mentioned us will happen. Is that then how we're going to see campaigns in the future? You don't really show your cards, you hold it all together and hope that the other party fails more.
But I think it's their belief in two respects. Firstly, that the people have been traumatised by what's been done on the economy. I mean, the economy was crashed, and therefore people want sensible stability. And they want to see no wild...
when you say that, because it was on your watch.
They don't want to see wild promises. They want to see something that they can believe in, they can trust economically. And so that's the politics.
Bro, that is the most G'd up, iced out, crazy fucking, like, VVS ass, rapper ass chain, bro. What is she wearing? That's crazy, dude. That is insane. Like, she needs to be rocking a fucking grill with that shit. She needs to have the Duke Dennis grills on, too, on top of that. That has to be racist. I mean, she's definitely just one look, and I feel like she's got those vibes.
Entering a world of much more aggressive, radical politics. And this is a real anomaly. They've come in probably with quite a small percentage of the vote. They've got this huge majority. I don't think they're going to be able to run a campaign in 5 years' time on fiscally conservative, social liberal, austerity light. I mean, it feels
I'm
like
trying to get my head around the fact that we're talking about the next election. We haven't had a single... Let's stop that bit of the conversation. Because if you're just joining us, well, thank you for joining us. And the story so far is there on the screen. It's the exit poll. And that is likely to be what we're looking at the end of the day, but we actually don't know because all the seats are still to come in. The counting is underway, of course, and we are expecting the first results, perhaps as early as 11:15, both in the northeast. The first result likely to come from either Blyth and Ashington or Houghton and Sunderland south. Let's check in with our correspondents at the counts of Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer. Very different moods in both places, I would imagine.
They're behind on their iPads because England is a much poorer country, chatter.
Jubilation down there?
Hi, Chris. Well, we're not expecting a result here until around 2:30, so Keir Starmer isn't here yet. But there's a real intensity and focus amongst the counters here, and it's mesmerising, actually, to watch them work. And we forget, don't we, about the grinding political machinery around these big politicians. And this is theatre unfolding, and of course the main character is Keir Starmer. Now, this is a safe seat. Keir Starmer has held a majority here since he came into politics in 2014, and before that, from 1979, it was another Labour MP, Frank Dobson. So in less than 10 years in politics, Keir Starmer has potentially made it to number 10 with a staggering majority. As I said, he's not expected here until 2 a.m., but people will be eagle-eyed watching him for any signs in his demeanour or his facial expressions of feeling victorious. And certainly wherever he is now, people will be wondering, what is he thinking? How is he feeling? Is he prepping for his big moment? And if he comes into power, Krish, he will be the first Labour Prime Minister for 14 years and only the 7th Labour Prime Minister in the history of the UK. And that's a big deal. And it's for that reason that people will be looking to the Labour leader to answer the question through his actions, through his policies. Who is Keir Starmer? His campaign has been criticised for a lack of specificity. Some say he played to the left in order to become leader of the Labour Party, and some people say that he then played to the centre to try to become leader of the country. So if he becomes Prime Minister from tomorrow, there'll be this big chorus of, will the real Keir Starmer please stand up? And that will be crucially important for him to reveal who he really is if he gets a mandate as big as this.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Claire Fallon now in Richmond and North Allerton. Claire.
I would say, Krish, the mood here is probably one of anticipation and caffeination, if that's actually a word here at the moment, because we are expecting this to be a bit of a long night. The result here for Rishi Sunak's constituency, Richmond and North Allerton in North Yorkshire, not expected until around 4 o'clock in the morning, so we've got a way ahead of us yet. But the upside of that timing is that by then we should have a pretty good idea of whether those exit poll predictions are correct, how accurate they are, the scale of the Labour win that's predicted, and, of course, the scale of defeat. for Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party. Now, we will be seeing Rishi Sunak here later on. I would imagine he's not going to get here with a lot of time to go before the result is declared. He's not going to want to hang around, is he? Let's be honest. But when he does arrive, clearly all eyes will be on him. The question I've been asked time and time again in the run-up to tonight is, will Rishi Sunak lose his seat? In all honesty, just the fact that that question is being asked is astonishing.
Nico Omalana, let's go.
Well, it was frankly not even a question in previous elections. It was about as safe a Tory seat as it gets. Also, there's the fact that never before has a sitting Prime Minister lost their seat in a general election. The exit polls say that a Conservative win, a Rishi Sunak win here is...
Don't ban me for this. I listened to your politics rant about the Turkish guy, and then he proceeds to be like, is it hard for you to be this stupid while living in America? No, man. Is it that hard for you to be a fucking... Is it that hard for you not to be a nationalist pig fucking scumbag? I don't think so. Seems like it's really fucking hard for you not to be a defender of fascism. Oh, it's just a little bit of nationalism, dude. Just a little bit of fucking nationalism, huh? Is that what it is? Oh, man, are you so sad? What a fucking embarrassment, dude. What a fucking embarrassment that you had to actually fucking defend. Dumb bitch. Sorry. That shit pisses me off.
Lead to some interesting conversations around
what is happening here.
Okay, so do you always vote Conservative?
No. Have switched over the years. The reason I voted Conservative this year was I just wasn't that impressed with any of the main leaders. So I just looked locally at who were representing us, and we had a really proactive, good local constituency MP. Or candidate.
No, dude, I'm not going to do fucking Sky News. Like, why do you want me to watch the Fox News version of British politics?
From the beginning,
What's next, bro? GBN?
Oh, not at all. I wanted a Labour majority, and I'm glad to see it come through. But from looking at the polling, I felt like that was almost a foregone conclusion, and that my vote would be better used choosing who I wanted to be in opposition. And I feel like Nigel Farage's direct, no-nonsense attitude makes him quite good in that role, if not government.
Voting for the opposition. We've got a game theorist in, I think. All right, let's over here. Thank you to all of you. Okay, how did you vote?
Conservative.
Are you Welsh?
Just a bit, yeah.
So a Welsh Tory we have.
Yeah.
A rare beast.
Very rare.
And why so? Why would you vote Tory?
I usually vote Conservative. On this occasion, I don't like what Rishi did to Boris, and then to you. But I didn't hear anything new from Starmer. He talks about change a lot, but he doesn't go into any detail about policy or anything. So for me, I just vote Conservative.
How about you?
I vote Lib Dem.
Yeah? Do you always vote Lib Dem?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so in my part of London, it's normally Lib Dem or Tory. But I actually really liked what the Lib Dem stand for. You know, Ed Davey, you know, there's a lot about social care. There's a lot about, you know, they want to put local people on the board of water companies. So, yeah, I like the Lib Dems.
And we have another Reform voter over here, Amy.
Hi, so originally I was meant to be Labour, and then very last minute I switched to Reform.
That's very interesting. Now, 2 Labour voters, though, who switched to Reform at the last minute. What was your reasoning?
Because I'm racist.
Mainly what Keir Starmer...
Because I'm a fucking fascist.
The elderly, what he wanted to do with them, and the hiring a tax for people who are trying to work harder to better themselves.
Okay, so it was almost like a against Labour decision rather than necessarily a pro-reform. Okay, well, let's cover here.
That's
as well,
bullshit.
We've got 2 best
That's
friends
literally
over here.
bullshit. She's just too embarrassed to admit that she's a racist piece of shit, which is so weird. Just vote Conservative then, dumbass. The fuck do you mean?
We cover very different parts of the political spectrum.
Tell me the story.
Yes, I mean, we're best friends from university, and even at those times we'd be sort of back and forth, like squabbling and bickering, I guess, over time. But yeah, as in, we're still best friends. We know there's a common denominator of that, but we're always voting sort of opposite to each other. But that, you know, raises good sort of points and arguments between us.
So which round are you? And does this lead to a lot of drunken arguments at sort of 2 a.m. between you?
It's all very jovial, really. I think we can see each other's perspectives most of the time.
Which way round are you?
So I voted Labour.
Labour and?
I voted Conservative.
Conservative. Yeah. And is that, are you stuck, you always vote for Labour?
Most of the time. I'm at a very marginal constituency, where there's a few hundred votes between Labour and Tories. So.
And is that an easy choice for you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of flip as well sometimes, but like the lady said over there, my sort of representative is a Labour constituency. Sorry, the Conservative constituency, and yeah, he seems more proactive.
Okay, well, we will come back for more opinions from the audience later on in the evening. Emily.
Thanks so much, Hannah. There are so many numbers here on my right. Gary, you look like a sort of Dickensian actuary setting up shop here for the night.
Nicest things anyone's ever said. Yeah, delving into this exit poll a bit more, a couple of things become clear. We thought at the very beginning this was a landslide in seats, not in votes, and that does seem to be coming across, because there is an estimate, you think, lurking inside this exit poll of about a 36% Labour vote, something of that order. Another thing to point out, the Lib Dems on 61, if that is their final number, have achieved that extraordinary leap without actually increasing their share of the vote at all. That's another, someone who really didn't enjoy.
Hey man, how does it feel to be responsible for white savior syndrome while simultaneously bringing Western society down as a whole and crippling masculinity and self-respect in the West? Ironic when most of your viewers are European in it. First of all, most of my viewers are not European, they're American. That's number one. Number two, I look like this. You look like shit, okay? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, destroying masculinity in the fucking West. You think this actually makes you masculine. You should be doing more of this, okay? Maybe then you could talk. Especially if you did more of this, you would probably start doing less of this, okay? So put the fucking keyboard down and go hit the fucking weights, all right? You little bitch.
Keeping an eye on that one, but they do seem 99%
Western civilization is being destroyed. Oh, man.
Just to tell you, sorry, we're just hearing that the first result is about 10 minutes away. We're going to be taking you to Blythe in the northeast. Now, this is a curious seat because it was one of the very first to declare last time round in 2019. And at that time, it was the beginning of the collapse of the Red Wall. And it was the first seat won by Ian Levy, who actually thanked Boris Johnson in his acceptance speech. That seat, you will now see when it pops up, is red because of those confusing boundary changes. If it is gained by Labour tonight, it will not actually change colour. It will appear as a hold because of all the reasons that Hannah took you through. But it will be, on the night, technically, a Labour gain, a win of sorts.
Yeah, Western civilization is being destroyed by the top of the hour ad break. That's what it's being destroyed by. Haha, your fans are cringe as fuck. That guy's not a fan of mine, dumbass. What is wrong with you? You're a fucking 4-month subscriber. This person literally just came in today to chirp. Okay? Literally just today. How fucking stupid are you? Dumb fuck. I'm gonna ban you and not this fucking new person. How does that make you feel? This dumb racist piece of shit who's talking about Western civilization as though it's like a monolithic figure and has like all this supremacist attitude. He gets to chirp in the chat because at least his opinion is fun to make fun of. You, on the other hand, are just fucking idiotically assuming that this person is a fan of mine. What fucking fan of mine would talk about how Western civilization is falling apart? Dumbass. Why the fuck have you subscribed to me for 4 months? Just to avoid the top of the hour ad break? Is that why? Here's a 3-minute ad break now, by the way.
Organisational approach, and that's what we did, and we won it. But it does give a responsibility. Having a big majority, it does give a responsibility to look around to people who don't agree with you and make sure that you hear their views and include them. And I don't think
at least you don't have to hide behind the bravado, false bravado of insecurity of your bodily image to make yourself feel better. No, you can't hide behind the image of bravado because you look like shit. That's why you fucking hate yourself. And it's not just about like working out and looking good. It's about gaining confidence in yourself. You don't have it. And that's why you're in here in the Twitch chat chirping and trying to make people feel bad. Okay. It's not working. And it's making you maybe even recognize that it's not working at all, which is why you will then resort to, well, I made you actually trigger, didn't I? Well, you didn't. Everybody here thinks you're a fucking racist loser. Anyway, the point is, you wouldn't be doing this if you did have some kind of security within yourself. You wouldn't be going into a Twitch chat and being like, Western civilization is falling apart because of a fucking Twitch streamer. Okay? Do you understand? Telling men they have to hit the gym is just one of the many examples of insecurity you have. Telling men to hit the gym is one of the many examples of insecurity I have. No, I don't just tell men to hit the gym. I tell women to hit the gym too. Okay? It's a good thing. Working out is good. Okay? Physical fitness is a good thing. Self-improvement is a good thing. Setting goals for yourself and achieving them is a good thing. I'm telling you, you will develop more confidence within yourself and you will become less of a shitty person that is impossible to be around. That is like truly, utterly repulsive. Because right now that's what you are. And it's very unhealthy for you. But you can change that. You can improve yourself. I'm telling you right now, it sounds condescending. It sounds like I'm making fun of you. And to a certain degree I am. Because you have a lot of stupid opinions. Okay? Well, yeah. The reason why I mentioned that, by the way, the bravado, was because you talked about masculinity to a dude who is a hairy 6'4", 230-pound person. Because a lot of right-wingers, just like yourself, think that simply believing in right-wing framing on issues makes you a masculine person, okay? And masculinity, in the way that you understand it, like being alpha, in the way that you understand it, isn't even really about masculinity at all. It's actually just about confidence. That's why it comes across really silly, because in your mind, you personally think Ben Shapiro is a masculine figure, and I, on the other hand, am very feminine. I'm a soy boy. I'm gay. I'm lame. Okay? Do you get it? Because for you, right-wing ideology is supposed to be a representation of masculinity. That's why I brought the gym shit. That's why I said I look like this, and it's kind of laughable that you're calling me a soy boy. Do you understand? It's also laughable, specifically because you think Western civilization is somehow the superior form of existence on this planet, but it's also so fickle that it could be destroyed by a Twitch streamer. I don't think you can understand many things. Hopefully this will be one of them. Right-wing ideology is the most emasculate form of living in the world, in my opinion. 100%. That's why so many right-wingers are into cuck porn. Almost always. It's so funny. Motherfuckers would be like, yo, dude, you're a bitch. You're lame. You're soy. My favorite content creator, Sneeko. You know what I mean? That's your fucking beacon of masculinity. I know the shatter from classic WoW streams. He's a whiner and a European, but I could not tell you if he was 14 or 41. Either way, jaded, bitter WoW player definitely hasn't smiled since 2010s. Like, what are you doing? Think about it. There are 20,000 people in this community right now watching, enjoying, okay? Being productive members of the chat, bringing forward funny ideas, maybe some information that I might not have seen. What do you choose to do in that situation? You choose to be a bitter old bitch, sad, pathetic. Your existence on this planet is fucking meaningless. You have a finite amount of time on this earth alongside all of us, and that's what you choose to do. Okay? Fix your life. Stop worrying about Western civilization. Worry about your own damn life. It's sad. Let's get back to England.
To put in votes into actual seats.
And would you see yourselves as partner to perhaps a sort of Nadeem flavoured Conservative Party, or are you set against
Calm like a Tom.
Well,
thank you for the 10
gifted.
gifted.
To discuss,
on the Golden Kappa
what,
train.
Approaches might or might not be
Bro
made
roasting
from
all of
either
us?
side to
No,
either
I'm
side.
not.
All I would say is at the moment we've got 13 seats at Westminster, and we will use them if that poll is right.
So, Maury, you and I talked on the day that you decided you'd had enough of Westminster. Yeah. You came in and you said, it's toxic, I don't want to have any further part in it. I'm wondering if, you know, you were just seeing this coming, this sort of tidal wave coming at you and thinking, I'm going to get out.
Genuinely, if that was the case, if I was sure that I would lose my seat, I would have stood again because, frankly, financially is a better packet you get. So I don't think it was a foregone conclusion at all. But just as well, I made the decision I did, I think.
So basically, you lost Nicola Sturgeon and you lost Hamza Yousaf. And now, under John Swinney, you've got an absolutely disastrous result for the party. I mean, you
Isn't that the woman that toured the prison? Yes, I believe that's Han Whitaker.
I mean, what does it tell you about
I can't tell. It might be another case of mistaken identity.
It reflects the fact that the SNP have had an incredibly rocky couple of years.
So many British Tories
is kidding themselves on. I do think to be fair to John Swinney, he did get the job 2 weeks, I think, before the election was called. So I wouldn't rush to put the blame on.
But on these
his
results, the SNP is to Scotland what the Conservative Party is to England and Wales, to Westminster. I mean, they have been voted out of office for having spent too much time in office without providing results to the people of Scotland.
Well, I would argue with that slightly, because with the Westminster election, of course, the SNP have been in opposition. But I do think it ultimately plays into what's happened to the SNP, that there has been this uncomfortable balance of being opposition in Westminster whilst also having the responsibility of being the government in the Scottish Parliament.
I mean, as far as you know, do you know if there was any, in Scotland, any tactical voting between the parties?
Clearly, there was, and I think one of the most interesting...
I mean, you're expecting to gain in Scotland, is that right?
Well, let's see what happens, but I think the most interesting is what you alluded to, and I think what Harriet Harman spoke about, which is voter efficiency. The two winners in terms of voter efficiency are Labour and the Lib Dems, because the projected share of vote on the exit poll for Labour is 36%.
We're going to stop you. We've got a result. Christian,
let's go to Sunderland South.
And Sunderland South. I, Patrick Melia, Acting Returning Officer, hereby give notice that the total number of votes for each candidate for the Horton and Sunderland South constituency is as follows. Richard Peter Bradley, 1,723. Chris Bernicle, 5,514. Paul Edgeworth, 2,290. Richard Maeve Phillipson, 18,837. Sam Woods Grass, 11,668. The number of rejected ballot papers was 101. The turnout was 51.2%.
Wait.
And that Bridget Maeve Phillipson...
Reform won 11,000 votes in a Labour district.
The Shadow Education Secretary probably...
11,000. Did I hear that wrong? What the... Bro,
Tonight,
what?
the British people have spoken. And if the exit poll this evening is again a guide to results across our country, as it so often is, then after 14 years, the British people have chosen change.
Oh my God.
They have chosen Labour, and they have chosen the leadership of Keir Starmer. Today, our country, with its proud history, has chosen...
Bro, the Tories are doing like Green Party numbers out here. They're doing Lib Dem numbers out here, while the Reform Party is second in place in a district that ultimately went to Labour. What the fuck? That is... What is happening, dude? I don't know anything about British politics like this. I don't know down to the... I hope that they give me some analysis, because this doesn't make any sense. Wait, what is the BBC, the average? This is the average Reform voter. Is it the same one?
I wanted to go Reform, to be honest. But since that bloke said, and he's only saying what we all think, shoot them when they're coming off the boats.
Are we all... I'm not thinking that. Are you thinking that?
Oh, you're a woke.
What, is it woke to not murder people now? Is woke not murder?
No, they're the do-gooders.
If you're shooting, do you not think woke mean whatever woke means? Shooting people.
I wanted to go Reform, to be honest. But since that bloke said, and he's only saying what we all think, shoot.
Wait on Chapo / Majority Report / Democracy Now? You think Chapo knows more about fucking British politics? What the fuck are you talking? Or Majority Report? What are you talking about? You think Chapo and Majority Report know more about British politics? Dude, what is happening today? I think my vibes are off because I got fucking... I effed too much when I began the broadcast, and it like fucked me up. And now it's like, now everyone is just going crazy mode in the chat. Like they're going off my vibes being bad.
And he's only saying what we all think. Shoot them when they're coming off the boats.
Ooh, are we all... I'm not thinking that. Are you thinking that?
Oh, you're a woke.
According to the interviews in the previous video, a lot of Labour voters are voting for reform because they do not want to vote for the austerity and centrism of the current Labour Party, but they do not want to help the Tories, so they vote reform. That's insane. This reform TikTok is so good.
Ever since I got kicked in the head by a...
Dude, I can't watch anything. What is going on, dude? I can see Tories that are mad at the fucking Conservative Party voting reform because they're just like extra racist. But it feels pretty crazy to watch. It's pretty crazy seeing like Labour voters be like, yeah, I've decided. Unless they're fucking old Labour guys like this dude. Okay. I saw a tweet earlier. Oh, here it is, actually. Here. This is like the demographics of far-right voters. And if you look at the age demographics of the far-right voters, like, it swings wildly. Like, it's much older. In a lot of other countries, you're seeing a lot of momentum in the youth going towards the far right, which is very scary. It's a scary prospect. But the UK is one of the few countries where it's like most prominently older people. So that's good. I mean, it's bad still, but it's also kind of good, which means that there isn't like that same level of staying power. I think that a lot of these guys are just like maybe lifelong Labour voters who hated the austerity, who became more angry and more racist as time passed on. It's the thing that I mentioned already. It's economic instability, economic volatility causes a scenario that is so uniquely primed for reactionary politics. And I think that's what some of these constituencies, especially with older demographics, that's what they are experiencing. This doesn't mean that the youth won't turn fascist, by the way. Okay? They still can be convinced. Make no mistake. But at least there's a way to salvage the situation. Guy News is fucking cursed.
Oh my God.
Yo, she's coming, dude.
A horse. I get free ever since I got kicked in the head by a horse. I get free crayons to play with as long as I don't choose them. And I have to do my vote now. It's not a very good cross, but it should let them know. I used to be able to draw swap stickers, but I'm too thick to do that now. I hope Nige wins because he's going to get our country back for us so that we could all be sex offenders and lunatics in a free country where we'll all get free crayons that we can eat.
That's so good. Oh, average reform voter, dude. Oh, man. That's perfect. How did you vote in a UK election? I didn't fucking vote. I'm a British anarchist, mate. I voted for anarchy, which is I didn't fucking vote. That's right. I joined a collective, and I spray painted Buckingham Palace. Yeah, I spray painted Stonehenge. That's what I did. That's what I did instead. Yeah.
Is it woke to not murder people now? Is woke not murder?
No, they're do-gooders.
If you're shooting, do you not think woke mean whatever woke means? Shooting people, unarmed people as they come off boats?
No, shoot the boats. They should shoot the boats over on the French coast.
But that would just kill everyone.
No, they can just swim back to shore then.
People would, and they drown anyway. If you shoot a load of boats, they're going to drown, aren't they?
No, if you shoot them close enough to shore, don't let them get on them. The French have literally cut one up.
Right. I mean, if you're shooting at boats, then the bullets are going to hit the people in it as well, aren't they?
No, you aim at the boats.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to kill people doing that. I mean, they're human beings, aren't they? Whatever you think about them, they're human.
No, they're human beings, but...
Like us, different, they have different...
Stop being a fucking woke.
They've got no control, have they? Nobody's got any control over this. It's just happening, and nobody's doing anything about it.
I like that he was talked off the ledge.
I wanted to go reform, to be honest.
Might I be a woke school? While it is funny, it's really working to bring people to the left. Again, it's funny, but how long will it work? What? What are you saying? Take a day off, dude. I'm done for tonight. I'm tired. It's 12:30 here, and I can't stand the fucking chatters. If another 38-month subscriber comes in here being like, hey, man, You're a bad dog dad to Kaya. Hey, man, I'm going to be a woke scold. And I say your methods of trying to bring people to the left are actually unimaginably unsuccessful. Hey, man, vibe assassins are out. I don't know what fucking happened. I don't know what happened today. It's my fault. I should have started off with good vibes. I couldn't because I kept getting effing. I kept losing bandwidth over and over again. Anyway, I just can't wait to be back home. Seriously, I miss my dog. I miss my friends. I miss my house. I miss my internet. I can't believe I'm saying that. I miss Los Angeles internet more than I care to admit. Anyway, people are being extra lame today, though, in the community. This has happened every single time I've tuned in this week twice. Just go outside and have fun, bro. Chatter is 12:30. I don't know what you think I'm going to do.